the new people, because it's an ongoing training that has been happening to get people ready to use the Forum learning management system and what they are supposed to be creating to go on to that learning management system. So what we are going to be looking at, in the first place, we are going to be looking at more of the theoretical concepts that are necessary for us to be able to develop an effective e-learning journey that we hope we are getting on today. Some of you are new to it, and to those who are already into the e-learning, how we can refresh ourselves on the different concepts. I'll share my screen. And I hope each one of you can see my screen and hear me loud and clear. We may be talking to ourselves here. Are people out there hearing us? Okay. Okay, so we are going to be looking at first steps to effective e-learning. And we'll go straight away to some of the concepts that are known into e-learning. First, giving you a bit of the reality that we are looking at coming from COVID and all that. Trying to let you know about problems with our course design, and then how we can effectively design courses that can go online. Having content in a Microsoft Word document does not necessarily mean that you have e-learning content ready to go online. So, but that's always one of the quotes I like sharing, which says the critical success factor in successful e-learning is the skill of the teacher in creating environments that combine learner support, on and offline activities and resources, and ideas that stimulate peer-to-peer communication. What it means is that as we teach, there are a variety of activities that we offer, but how we are able to offer them to provide what we call learner support and all that stimulates peer-to-peer communication is very, very, very important for effective e-learning. So we need to take that very, very seriously right from the word go as we try to interface with the training that is being offered. What we need to clearly understand is that the reality on ground is that what we are looking at, it's not a new pedagogical construct at all, but something that has been, that is adapting teaching methods that are used in the traditional setting. So when we talk about, for example, an activity called a discussion, in the traditional setting, discussions are offered. But the question is, how do we go and deliver them virtually, all online? So what we are talking about today is just simply a new delivery method that we are venturing in, those of you that have not yet gone into it. It's a new delivery method. We are not changing the pedagogy, the art and the science and art of teaching and learning. If we want to engage students actively and we need to bring a discussion forum to support that, we bring it forward and utilize it irrespective of the method of delivery we are using. Also, what we need to understand the reality is that when we are developing all this content to be offered to the learners out there, since they are not within our midst, we expect them to be online learners. we need to think about certain things. And one of them is that all the courses being developed, you have to have in mind the learner's needs. Not every learner comes to your class with the same needs. So you need to be able to understand how you can facilitate all these learners and be able to cater for all their needs. And then the teaching has to be, all these courses have to be developed in such a way that the teaching and delivery methods that are being utilized are in conformity with the learner needs. As we are going to see, these change across the learner needs. So when you use what? As we shall see as we move on. Also, something that you need to be aware of is that the learners you have in your class have not changed. Those are the same learners you had previously in your semester, but then you are just simply introducing them to a new delivery method. Therefore, they know you as a person who does ABCD, who is very active in class, engages them in class. And therefore, when you decide to move and go virtually, you shouldn't lose yourself and be that very different person they do not know. So you need to maintain the consistency within your course. If you've been availing examples, when you go on virtually, you need to continue with the same. You still have the other cohort of learners. So it's simply the delivery method that is changing. So we need to know that reality. And then the other reality that I'm not putting here is that whether we want it or not, the paradigm shift has already taken place. After COVID, we saw a serious paradigm shift change that at the moment, you cannot sustain your classes without having a virtual presence. So it is important for you to understand that you need to really move out there and engage your students virtually. And then two, there has been a very recent paradigm shift that artificial intelligence has come to stay with us within education. And therefore, we need to understand how do we bring all together within our midst and continue teaching virtually, but knowing we have artificial intelligence with us, and therefore students are able to be supported by AI at any time, whether in assessment, whether in generating content, whether in doing anything. So we need to be very innovative as we venture in this modern era of e-learning. The concept of course design in e-learning is not a recent one, and many people have been advocating for it. That before you put any content online, make sure it fits the purpose. But we note majority, a lot of content that is put out there doesn't follow what is supposed to follow. Where I'm saying that it doesn't follow the course design principles that are necessary to be followed. And even if you go out there online and search, studies have clearly shown that many projects of e-learning, they simply begin at implementation stage. They don't go out there to really understand the pedagogy that is supposed to be embedded, the principles that are supposed to be embedded, understanding their learners, and therefore be able to cater for them. Once they have a learning management system, they feel we are ready to go. I already have my Microsoft Word document. I can embed it there. I have my PDF. I can embed it there, and so on and so forth. These are not bad to be put into there. for students to use. But have you created the instruction in there that is supposed to support these people while they are out there as online learners? So we note that many of you fail on the analysis and design, that you don't consider them. The rationale is not always identified. You're creating this content for who? Is it for distance learners? Is it for undergraduates? Is it for postgraduates? Is it for PhD? So the rationale needs to be known before even you start doing anything. The focus is majorly on the tools, as I've already said, rather than the suitability for learning. You may develop very good content in terms of video. That's what you think, but then you are unable to deliver the video because of bandwidth issues, and so on and so forth. And then also, the sensitization to the actual potential users is ineffectively done many times. We assume that the learners know, and therefore they will be able to get on and move on with their studies virtually. You are transplanting the traditional into the virtual, as simple as that. So I think we need to really consider these issues very seriously if we are going online. So, but what we need to understand that effective online courses require certain things. And one of them is analysis of the learning needs of whoever is going to go there and be able to utilize your resources in the best way possible. By analyzing the learning needs, we look at the level of competence and the type of learners. The content you are creating, who is it intended for? What is their level of competence? Are you assuming that they are already knowledgeable and therefore you start with a certain level? What is that? So you need to understand them. And then the type of learners. You know, we have learners with different learning styles. So you may end up considering only one learning style, but the majority are of another style. And then you lose half of your class. So you need to be able to understand your learners, analyze their learning needs, and then put them into your consideration as you develop all these courses. Then you need to design the course with clear end in mind. What is the outcome for this course? What do you expect out of? So this has to be in your mind as you design this course. Okay. When we talk about analyzing a course, what is that we are supposed to do? One, you need to be able to identify important techniques and methods already in use. If you look at the course you are teaching, you're not the first person to teach it probably. So can you dig out from any sources? What are those techniques and methods that are used? Because you may pick on a particular functionality or tool to use, and you find that many people have never used that within. So the question will be, are you capable of utilizing that for your student? So go out, you're not the first person to use the concept. Now, as you look at the levels of learning, we look at the approaches and we look at the delivery methods. Those three things are very, very important as you analyze. What are the levels of learning? What are the learning approaches in place? What are delivery methods in place? We are going to look at the three and see what they mean, so that as you analyze, you are able to put it into perspective that this is the approach I'm going to take. This is the delivery method I'm going to take. And these are the levels of learning I'm considering. And the purpose of doing this is to simply help you create a framework that formulates approaches for developing an effective online course structure. Once you are able to know all that, you'll clearly know what to use and when to use it. If you don't have those, it will be very hard for you to understand when to use, for example, a chat session in a virtual class, when to use a synchronous and asynchronous activity. But with the analysis, you're able to know that on such and such a module, I'm going to use A, B, C, D. Either it is synchronous, whether it is asynchronous, but all are intended to support your student who is out there. Remember, this student is not going to be with you. They are going to be online learners, and therefore, they need content that is going to support and facilitate them during their learning when you are not with them. So when we talk about levels of learning, there are certain questions we need to be asking ourselves. One, do students attend for the same reasons? You may have in a class 20 students, but out of the 20, some have come into a class to simply get knowledge, but their intention not even to sit assessments. They're distance learners. Or you may have all of them are supposed to be sitting for assessments and the like. So understand them. What are the reasons that bring them into the class? Do they arrive with the same preconceptions? When they arrive in class, you will find there are some who are very knowledgeable, and some are not knowledgeable, and some are midway. Know your class, so that once you start teaching, you do not chase away all those who are already knowledgeable and remain with just a few. Create a class that is going to accommodate all these types of learners within your class. Do the students arrive in your class with similar levels of ability and learn in the same way? You may find that some who are auditory learners, they want to learn more by hearing. Visual learners, they want to learn more by seeing. So videos will work for them, animations will work for them. Tactile learners, those who are interested in reading text and the like. So understand your class. And once you decide to deliver a course, let it be able to consider a big component of your class, not only to take care of only a few of them. Okay. So, yes, we've looked at that, and we need to understand the learners, that they come with different learners. And then we have learners. As you teach, the patterns keep on changing. You introduce them to the class this week, and next week, the third week, you'll find that your students will be at a completely different level, because you introduce to them that when you go to YouTube, you can find a variety of content that you can be able to read and understand, and then come back to the class. So by the time you come back to interface with them, they are already different. So their patterns have changed. They don't have the same levels of learning that you saw with them at the beginning of the class. So you need to be able to understand and change as you move along with your learners virtually. We've seen that there are already some who are adult returnees. They're simply coming back as distance learners. But then we need to understand that if we are going to be able to support these people, we need to know the approaches that are used. There are a variety of approaches out there, and it's you, the course developer who decides on the approach you are going to use. There is an approach called surface learning. This is an approach that involves information reproduction, memorizing facts and procedures, and the intention is to cope with the content and tasks. The way you look at it, surface learning. And definitely now also this goes with a certain caliber of learners. You expect that undergraduates that have just come from A-level, they are not so much used to a certain way of learning, and therefore they are so much used to being spoon-fed and things of that kind. There is a certain level approach you need to start with them. But somewhere in the probably 6th, 8th week of the semester, you may decide to change the approach. Because now they're already used to something, and then you change to another approach. There is an approach called strategic learning approach, which is all about organizing, achieving, and the intention is to inform well-structured and efficient study methods. They are now used at the postgraduate level. Now you bring them into the form of postgraduate, get them into discussions and all that, and it's no longer surface. Now you are getting them also to be able to construct a bit of their knowledge out of discussion forums, out of role play, and things of that kind. Then there is another approach called deep learning approach. This is an approach that involves knowledge transformation. The intention is to understand content for oneself and develop awareness of the subject. You get the student and throw them into the blue ocean. Deep, you simply give them something and tell them, can you go and try to dig information around this and come and present to us? An A-level student, starting them with such an approach, may get many of them running out of your class because they are not used to it. You need to build them up a certain level and then change them to another approach as you go on. By the time they finish the semester, probably you're already encouraging them to go into even the deep learning. So as an instructor, you need to build your course to be able to take care of the different environments that happen within your classroom. Read the environment and change accordingly. So if you have all the students coming into your class very knowledgeable about the area, you can decide straight switch to deep learning approach because you're already knowledgeable in the area. So know when to deploy what. At least you understand what to deploy and to what type of learners you have in your class. You will see that the type of learners, the approach, and the methods, they are very closely related to each other. If you are going to deploy the surface learning approach, there is a certain method that you are supposed, a delivery method that you use. If you are going to deploy strategic learning, there is a delivery method you use. And there is, for deep learning also, there is a delivery method you use. Okay, but as I've already indicated that because you have a variety of learners within your class, you need to be able to take care of all of them so that you accommodate all of them. And therefore, you may be able to put all these approaches together, keep on mixing them for the good of the class so that you don't leave anybody behind. What you really need to make sure that your class is flexible, it is student-centered, and self-directed learning is offered as you deliver your class. So, because we have looked at the approaches, we also now look at the delivery methods that come with the approaches. There is a delivery method which is called transmission. transmit, you are putting forward something. Here, the emphasis is on direct instruction, task analysis, reinforcement, and the learning strategies are fixed, and the teacher is more of a presenter. Now you see this transmission relates so well with the surface learning approach. The teacher is more presenting to those learners. This is what you need, getting them off the ground. We have another, okay. Another transmission is that the learner, what they need, the lecturer provides the learner with all what they need to have. They are presenting, they are presenters, and therefore, this is not more of what we call student center. It is more now of a teacher center. Without the teacher, the learners may not be able to learn because they are expecting to be given from the teacher. Know when to do that as a teacher, as an instructor. Know when to stop doing that. The other delivery method is what we call transaction. This is where the emphasis is on linking, connecting, integrating ideas, and the learning structures are more flexible and student-centered. Here, the teacher is more of a facilitator. They facilitate, and therefore, a lot of what we are going to do is all about facilitating. Provide some small content, tell the students, go and discuss the content within a discussion forum, and then the instructor is there to facilitate the discussion that is going on, allowing the students to really take lead in their learning. So you create a lot of these activities that demonstrate, that provide the students the ability to be able to take lead in their learning. So you simply give some concepts and then expect the learners to get the rest by themselves. That is what you do. The other third delivery method is what we call transformation. Now, before I go to transformation, now you clearly see that transaction relates to strategic approach. Now, transformation, which is all about individuals constructing meaning, understanding through analysis, through critical thinking and reflection. And therefore here, the teacher is more of an advisor. It is a high end, which connects now directly to the deep learning approach, if you can relate. So you have deep learning goes with transformation. You have strategic approach going with transaction. And you have surface going with transmission. Okay? Those methods work hand in hand. But the fact is that you need to know as an instructor when to deploy what. If you decide to go into deep learning, you know you are going to be more of an advisor. So know when to be an advisor, know when to be a facilitator, know when to be a presenter. This is when students will benefit out of this virtual online class you are delivering. But as institutions, you need to understand and clearly agree on what you decide to use so that the students uniformly know what to take and what not to take, so that they can be able to question even their other instructors. Why aren't you doing what the other people are doing? They need to be able to learn in the same way. So institutions need to agree what to take and not to take. But the recommended is that the instructors need to know how to blend all these. Need to know how to blend the approaches, need to know how to blend the delivery methods so that you get the best out of your teaching that you're offering virtually. I hope there are no questions up to that level. These are concepts trying to really introduce you to this, especially those that have never interfaced with this, because I know there are quite many in there. But if you have questions, you can keep them until a time when we are ready to receive them. Okay, now it's just trying to really know, when do I do what? So we just need to take an example and say, I know many of you may be having a learning management system, which you utilize for facilitating your classes, but when do you do what? So, as a facilitator online and who is using an online learning management system, you need to be very organized in what you do so that your facilitation is effectively planned. Therefore, you need to know when to start and when to end a certain activity or event. You need to know the teaching load you have. How many modules do you have and ready to do what? To do no course units ready to deploy within the semester. If you have 15 weeks and you have 12 modules, you need to know when you are going to structure them into the 12 weeks and know when to present what within the 12 weeks. We need to know our estimated class size. Once you know the class size, you are able to facilitate well. If you have a class of 1,000 students, how are you able to actually support all the 1,000? Can you decide to put all these in groups, virtual groups, and then support them within their virtual groups? How do you do it? You need to prepare your weekly, you need to have what we call a weekly model you adopt for your teaching. For example, if it's a Monday, you have 5 days. Monday, what do you do? Probably it's the day when you're going to do a presentation. So, as you do the presentation, you are giving them a virtual class using either Zoom or what and things of that kind. So, you need to know, when do you do what? Monday, if it's the day you teach via Zoom, and I've given them PowerPoints and all that and things of that kind, I don't know. It depends on exactly what you really need to do. Is it the day you are going to develop the content that you are going to give them? Is it the day you are going to release the discussion? All the email activity? You need to decide, what do you do on the Tuesday? Probably your class happens on the Tuesday. Then that means Monday, you utilize it to organize yourself for the Tuesday class. Then you come and do a facilitation on Tuesday. But remember, you've already released the resources on Monday. Then when they say you keep on facilitating on the topic, either in the discussion forum or, I don't know, it depends upon you. Then the Thursday, you continue with the facilitation and so on. And then Friday, is it the time for you to close, for example, the discussion forum? If it's an assessment that was offered, is it a time to close it also? Is it the time to give further reading? Is it the time to engage the students in another activity, role play, depending on what you really want to achieve? Sorry, we are having a bit of some noise in the background. Bear with us, we are trying to deal with it. We apologize for just a minute, please. Okay, we shall have to deal with it. We apologize in advance. Okay, so this is just an example of what you can do. So this means you explicitly know what you have to do within your week and how you prepare yourself in the best way possible. You having an online community is very, very, very important. And therefore, as a facilitator out there, you need to understand you really have that online community. You may introduce your students to this virtual online learning, but the question, are they really learning online? You need to be able to understand whether you have the students there. If you have 100 students in the classroom and you avail a discussion topic and regularly you see only 3 or 4 students are the ones who are actually discussing and the rest are quiet, probably you only have those 3. Where are the rest? So this is where you need to come in as a facilitator. How do you get the rest of the other students wake up and continue participating in the activity that you have actually done what? That you have given them. Assess and see in the postings that are being made, who is there and who is not there. If you are running a blended class, who are those students who are very active in the physical classroom? Are they the same in the virtual classroom? So know your virtual class, who is there and who is not there. Remember, in the physical classroom, there could be those what we call the shy learners. And these will be very, very, very quiet people in the physical classroom. But it could be the difference in the virtual classroom. So you need to be able to understand your learners so that you can be able to better provide for them. Just make sure the same interaction occurs both in your physical and your virtual class. If it's not happening, go to the bottom and find out what is the problem. If it has reduced in the virtual class, then probably the students are finding challenges with the technologies, and therefore you need to come in and support them. So don't simply assume, go out there and support them during the learning process. So what makes a good online activity? There's so many activities out there that you can deploy. Good enough is that so many activities that we have been offering physically, technology has come in so handy that they can also be availed and offered virtually. But you need to really understand what activity will be good for the online class you are offering It could be for the instruction you are offering. It could be for the environment you are within. Ask yourself, is the activity I want to offer, is it meaningful and purposeful? Will it be meaningful to my students? If I'm requiring them to go and engage in a chat class, a chat session, but I don't provide them even the time when the chat session starts. But I'm encouraging them to go to the chat session, go and attend. We are going to go for a chat session class, but you've not even given them the time and the day. Is it purposeful? What is your intention of trying to offer this class? Many people think that we have to go and open Zoom and have this discussion, or a teaching by the presenter. And even the teaching can happen through a chat session. Know when to deploy what. We provide clear instructions as we offer all these activities out there. The instruction is do ABCD. The instruction is the chat session will be on a Monday, starting at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., period. Do you have those clear instructions? So that the students don't have excuses. They come in at 11 and they say, I missed the class, but the instructions were clear. What is the direction you want these students to move into? You ask those clear questions when it gets to discussion forums and the like. Who are you in this particular activity? Do you take on the facilitation role? Do you take on the advisory role? Do you take on the presentation role? But what you need to know, you need to be able to provide the leadership in whatever is happening within that activity. The focus, you need to be able to provide that stimulation for the group interaction. You need to be there to support, to encourage team building. You need to keep tying yourself as a facilitator, as an instructor, as an advisor, as a presenter. You need to be a participant. When the students don't see you there, you give a discussion for topic for them to engage in, and they never see you in the entire week. You'll be encouraging other students not to also come and attend. They will not come. They know anyway, you are not always there. But when they see your presence there every day, this will be an encouragement, even if you don't say anything, but they see you there. Simply mentioning, this is good, continue. And guide them so that they don't go off track. They will know that you are there with them. For example, when you get into discussion forums, avoid what we call closed questions, because they will close students. Students also will provide closed responses. And therefore, you are not encouraging the discussions to continue happening the way they are supposed to be happening. In all activities, we encourage what we call deeper levels of thinking. Encourage them. Remember, the paradigm shift has already taken us away from what we call teacher-centeredness to student-centeredness. And therefore, deeper levels of thinking are encouraged at all times. We need to be able to set clear outlines for facilitation response time. We don't encourage facilitation forever. If we need people, students, to be able to respond within a given schedule, let's stick to that. And sometimes people even become tougher and say, if you don't, you lose marks, and things of that kind. All are geared to supporting this sort of learning to effectively be done online. We just need to know our target groups we are targeting. So we need to be able to know the factors we can consider. The region or geographical area in which the learners reside. That is very, very, very important. If your learners are all in the rural areas and you know they are in the rural areas and there is no internet, there is no real-time internet connection, then why should you engage them into a synchronous activity, an activity that requires them to be there in real time? They will not be there. Okay? Why is this important? Even understanding, I'm sorry, I don't know all the participants online here. There could be some who are French speakers, and I'm here speaking in only English. There are some who are Portuguese and the like, but now here I am. So you see, there is already a problem. Okay, and I apologize in advance. We need to know the kind of organization institutions in which the learners work. Or are they distance learners? So I won't dwell so much onto this table, but we need to know our target group. We need to know the computer skills, illiteracy skills, ICT literacy skills they have. You may assume they are capable, but they are incapable. They even don't know where to go and find a discussion forum icon. But you're telling them, go to the learning management system, in the discussion forum, do a BP, but they don't know. So we need to be very, we need to know our target group. We shall avail you a form that will support you in what we call a learning needs analysis, so that you can utilize it to analyze your learners based on what you see here. The aims, the learner dependency, the approach, you need to know able, so that when you sit alone out there, you can do a bit of an analysis. So that once you go into developing your course unit, you clearly know that this is what I have. So you will plan better. Okay? So we won't give feedback here because of for the sake of time, but if we had more time, we would give feedback to each other here and there. Okay. But some concluding for that specific part of the session. It is important for you to consider your learners' abilities and type before deciding on the appropriate learning methods to use. The approach, the delivery method. Also, you need time and self-motivation to develop rich online course content. Give it the time. You may put in a lot of time at the beginning, but this will be worthwhile in the future because it will be simply simple updates, and then you are ready to go again with your next class. Also remember, not all content published online is appropriate for e-learning. Taking your simply Word document and dumping it on a learning management system does not make that content e-content. There is no instruction embedded in there. So you need to know this and move into the journey of trying to create an effective online class. What we need to understand that when somebody goes out there to really understand whether your e-learning is good or not, there are certain measures that are going to be considered. One will look at your content. Is your content learner-centered? By looking at a variety of things. You may end up that your approach, your surface, you are teaching postgraduate students, but you are only in the surface. So that means you have still lagged onto the teacher-centeredness. So we need to be able to provide content that really goes out to the learner. Does it really take care of their needs, their roles and responsibilities? Does it consider the prior knowledge they come with into class, and so on and so forth? So as you develop content, put that into your mind. Somebody will come and assess your content. Does it really provide for this? They will look at the granularity of the content. We have certain concepts like the learning object concept that provides for this sort of granularity for the what? For the content. It's all about segmenting content in a way that is readable, breaking the content in smaller chunks that are easily assimilated, consumed by the learners. It's like having a big book, one book, 134 pages, and you come into the class the first time and you say, there you are, please go and read. I'll come back to assess. You are giving students a full book to read of 134 pages. There is no facilitation happening at all. So can you be able to break this into smaller chunks that the students can consume much a bit? Even in a topic, in a subtopic, the subtopic even can also be broken into smaller chunks, as long as you know this is the ability of these learners to assimilate this content. So that is very, very, very important. And therefore, taking on the learning object concept is very, very, very effective to achieve that. And we encourage it. And we already see it even in the books, the physical books, they do that. Engaging content. When you are creating the content, we need to put in mind that this content should be engaging. Does it have those specific activities that are going to allow the learners to engage between each other? You may provide content, but at the end of the content, you avail activities that are going to get these students engaged. Either you put a discussion forum, you put a group work session, you put a role play activity. What is that you are putting in so that it's really going to engage these students to participate collaboratively? When you have this content that is only, for example, tactile, it's all about text. Students will read and get bored, and you'll see the dropout rate will be so high because they're not engaging. So we need to know if we are creating content, is it engaging? And if we want it engaging, what is that do we deploy in there to allow this to happen? My colleague in the afternoon part will be showing you all this, how you are able to do this. What do you put in so that the students don't get bored by looking at only this text and all that? Good enough that learning management systems have been developed to provide all these sorts of things. It is knowing how to deploy them and embed them within your content. The interactivity in your content. The moment you don't allow this frequent interactivity between your learners and you, as either the lecturer or the facilitator, all between the learner and the learners, then you are losing out on the student-centered needs. You need to provide as many activities as possible to encourage interactivity. Already talked about learner-centered content. Then the personalization. You need to be able, don't try to create a fit for all. I mean, a fit for one person. Try to create something that fits all people. Allow them to move into what we call self-paced. If I'm a beginner, let me begin from where I can. Not to simply get me to begin from a very high level and I have no alternatives. So you need to know that personalization is very key in here. And therefore, once you take on the role of a facilitator, you need to be able to follow your learners progressively and see their performance as they go on with their studies. It is very, 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 very important for you as an instructor. Okay. Once you really want to know what to avail or put out there, there are certain things you are going to be able to do. There are certain steps you take. You need to know the job and the task, what we call the job and task inventory. If you are going to develop this course, what is the overall goal of this I'm going to do? Am I developing a course for distance learners? Or am I developing a course that is going to get people to be assessed onto something? So this has to be very clear in your mind. You know, we have a curriculum, which is very clear with all the set goals to achieve and the outcomes and things of that kind. Is it what we are following? Is it what you are following as a course instructor? We are staff at Forum Universities. We understand our target audience. If we are developing a course that is going to be taken by staff of universities across the entire Africa, we need to understand that some of those staff members, for example, they have a different language. Some of them, the curriculum requirements and all that are different. So what is that you develop that is going to be able to incorporate all of them together? So know your job and the task ahead of you and the goal to be able to achieve. So what are the target major responsibilities in relation to the goal you are going to do? What is that you are supposed to do? Your responsibilities as a facilitator who is developing this course. No, I'll be able to do A, B, C, D into this entire course. What are those tasks that am I supposed to perform or that are supposed to be performed by the target audience? And therefore, I need to be there to know whether they're actually doing those tasks. All intended for us to achieve the goal we set out to achieve. If it's around research method, the course on research methods, and your target audience is all these lecturers and all that you are teaching, building capacity for research methods. What is that they are going to be able to do within this virtual class I'm offering? So that at the end of the day, I'm able to gauge and say, probably these people achieved, and therefore my goal of really building capacity for them was realized or not, was not realized. So don't assume the tasks, put them down so that you don't forget them. You don't lose anything by putting those tasks down. It will just get you more organized. Once you know all those tasks, it is now time for you to really know what is the priority of these tasks. You may want to go simply straight to the learning management system, but when you've not even created the draft document content in a Word document, that you'll be creating instruction design principles onto it, transform it into e-content. You've not yet developed it, but you want straight to go into the learning management system. You've not sat down and decided on what activities you are going to utilize to engage the students. There are so many activities there, but which ones have you decided to deploy? So once you know the priority of the tasks, which are most critical, which are not most critical, which are most important for you, if you are going to be able to achieve your goal of making sure you build capacity for research methods, to all this stuff, which are those? Then come up with a priority list. Which ones will I consider as my priority? And there are some which will be for the sake of getting the students to really learn better between each other, allowing them to engage and without really interfering with them. But know which ones are priority for you. You need to break down the tasks into different, you remember, we said it can be a very big, break them into chunks, smaller chunks. You need to be able to describe each task and list the type of judgment, decisions, or the steps that are required for each of the tasks. Just imagine you are using groups. You've divided all the students into groups, and you are requiring all of them to participate in a role play activity. They need to be able to understand the role play activity. What is that we are going to be able to do? What are the steps in there? We need to be able to identify the required knowledge. Now, these are the content resources you need to keep on feeding. That now, when they're studying this particular activity, as they go to engage into this role play activity, I will give them a case study. Then you present a case study in a PDF format and embed it into the learning management system. So as they move into the role play activity within their groups, they know exactly that we are supposed to be considering this case study as we do our role play in there. So all these are supposed to help you achieve the best out of what you are trying to do. And that will lead you to the type of content that you really need to administer, to offer to these people. So you need to be able to understand now the content. There are different types of content that you can offer virtually to your students out there. There are what we call facts. There are what we call procedures. There are concepts, principles, skills, attitudes. All this comes in terms of content. For example, when we talk about facts and you want to avail them to the students. So what examples can we use? This could be a set of data and you want them to deploy, to utilize this data to be able to understand a certain concept. It could be some historical event, but these are facts and you're supposed to read. So know exactly the type of content you are trying to give. What is it? What form is it? Okay. These are details that I think for the sake of time, I'll try to skip that. I will give you the content to consider. There are certain things that we need to be able to tick. It's more of a checklist for self-paced e-learning courses. If you develop your course and you are done, there are certain things you need to tick and see, does my course have A, B, C, D? For you to be able to know that probably I'm on the right track to offer an effective online class. Is the course structure well organized? Does the course contain tutorials or a section that explains what help explains what to do here and there? Sometimes you may give an activity, I'm talking about role plays, the example I'm giving, but students may not really understand what it involves. So do they know exactly? Check if the learners can easily navigate the course. The way you structure it, and they navigate, and they have to keep on looking where to find what and all that. Once they get into that business and they get bored, they run away. Are they free to access any section of the content? Or you've closed it down? There's what we call the eye push and the eye pull. Are you simply pushing the content to them? Are you simply allowing them to pull the content? So you need to clearly know by ticking. If you have as many as possible ticked here, then you probably, your course content is ready to go. You have a good, effective online class prepared. So you need to be able to check out on that. Many times, people would want to use a lot of these animations, graphics, videos, and the like. They can become a menace to online learning. Some are not clear, they don't explain the concepts, they are too heavy, and things of that kind. Know the type of graphics you put into your work. A simple tool, you simply tick and see my graphics are put in, do they conform to the following? And if so, then you are good to go. The content. You remember you have a curriculum. And it's very clear on what you are supposed to be offering as a curriculum. And the students may have the curriculum themselves. So the content, does it address the target audience's learning needs? Does it flow logically? So does it flow logically? You may find that you start with the first topic and then you jump to the second, eighth topic, and then the way it has been structured within the learning management system. Take time to really put it in the right format so that you don't confuse the students. There are some students who are very, they will look at what is next is one to follow. And they say, but we don't understand, but you're already in the sixth topic because you placed it after the first topic. So help them to be able to follow properly. When it gets to assessments, and now with a new paradigm shift that has brought in AI, we need to rethink completely our assessments. What is that assessment we are thinking about? They're simply giving an assessment to students, please go and search about ABCD and submit. It's no longer logical. and acceptable. Because they will go to ChatGPT and put in the same question you've given them, and you will draft for them a very good answer that you yourself, even the lecturer, did not have, probably. This is artificial intelligence in place. So how are we going to assess? It's a challenge with us right now. There is a paradigm shift with us. Anyone? How do we assess? Interviews are going to become more common than ever before. Presentations are going to become more, where the real interaction between the lecturer and the students. Role play assessments are going to be, and so many and so forth, as type of assessment. So we need to rethink how we are going to be offering assessments going forward. When it gets to social interactions, the social activities we are putting in there, there are some which are going to be synchronous and some are going to be asynchronous. But you need to sit down and reflect around all this. Understand the characteristics of your class. As I said before, you may require them to really participate in a synchronous class. And you clearly know the time difference between these students. There are some who are going to have even an 8-hour difference. And you expect them to be in a class synchronously working together. It is still okay, they can do it, but understand your learner. Majority of them may be in rural areas, and you want them to engage in a synchronous class where they will not even have access to internet at that particular point in time. So think through, when do you use a discussion forum? When do you use it? Is it appropriate to use a chat session at this point in time? And so on and so forth. A video conferencing class. So understand when to use what. So it's just a matter of checking yourself before you really move into making sure that you are really offering that effective class you are supposed to get. So as I said, that many of these can be given to us by, many of us have now learning management system, especially after COVID. And majority I know are utilizing Moodle. They provide many of these things. Know when to use them. Know what to pull what, and tap into use and use it. But some of them are synchronous. We have emails, discussion forum, blogs, webcasting, and also on. And then synchronous, we have audio, videos, conferences, chats, application sharing. You've seen certain tools whereby they tell you go to such and such a page, all of you log in, create an account, and we start engaging. There are some are for open source and some are for, and then you start working together, synchronously together. And there are some which are combined both. They are both asynchronous and synchronous. For example, surveys, whiteboards, and some social networking tools like WhatsApp and things of that kind. So know when to use what. Okay, and then the additional resources you offer. Try to check the resource I'm offering as an additional resource. Can it be previewed? Can it be opened by my students? It may be an assumption. So think about those additional resources you are offering. They are very, very important, especially for the students to acquire more knowledge about what you just told. They are always very, very necessary. Okay. I think we need to take a break. I don't know.
Maybe yes, probably. I think I'll take a break for 20 minutes. When we come back, 20 minutes. So the online audience, they can also rest for 20 minutes.
Then we come back. We come back after 20 minutes. Thank you, Prof. Jude Rubega, for taking us through the first session. So we come back for the second session, 20 minutes time.